How is everyone? Doing good? We have had a lot of fun here. I've been here since Sunday with my wife. Go ahead, stand up, Jane. She's way back there in the back. And you can and you can't do an assessment without a woman, because as a guy, I see things totally different than she does. And so we make a good pair doing this, and this has been fun. We have actually secret shopped about 2,200 cities and towns, and I was actually in Johnstown, but I think it was even like before 9/11, so it was a long time ago. But it was fun being here since Sunday doing a real deep dive. Now, I'm going to tell you what, if you see anything you want to photograph in this presentation, you just go for it. And like Lisa said, I am going to provide her with the entire presentation, plus it is being filmed. So this whole thing, and by the way, that first slide said recovery. This is not a flood. This is actually COVID, the latest thing we have to recover from. And so when we do this whole assessment, we've been secret shopping you. We got no information in advance. Lisa, nobody provided us anything. All she said is, here we go. We want you here. We want you to check it out. Just like any first-time visitor that hasn't really spent a lot of time here. There's no interviews, no heads up, no input on things to do, places to stay, eat, etc. We just came in just like anybody else would if they're looking for a place to live or work or invest or just a visit. And so we've done this many of these in 45 states across Canada, Western Europe. We worked in York, in Harrisburg, in the Lehigh Valley, all over Lancaster, Lidditz. But this is about as far west as we've gotten a chance to work. At one point, we even worked all the way across PA6 for a few days. And so we've gotten to know the area pretty well, and it's been really fun. When we do this whole assessment, we look at your marketing, like, was it easy to find information? Was it good enough to close the sale? How did you stack up to the competition? And I'm not really going to talk about that because I really want to talk about the product. And that's what we have been doing this whole week. Your signage, your gateways, wayfinding, were we able to find things? And I'll tell you right now, that was not so easy. These towns, your townships, are not built on the grid system by any means. And so we were ultimately confused by 20 different boroughs and townships and everything overlapping. At one point, we saw a sign to the Welcome Center and we followed it, and it took us into Cambria City. And I went, whoa, we got to turn around. We're in a different city. We're supposed to be doing Johnstown. So that we're going to talk about that. Overall appeal, critical mass, I'll explain that. Parking, restrooms, information, things to see and do, cross-selling. And I will tell you this right now, there were an awful lot of places we went where we said, what is there to do around here? And we heard a common phrase, nothing. And so that's something we have to work on. And that wasn't always the case, but that did happen a lot. And so when we do this is not just about tourism. We actually looked as if we were going to move here or raise a family or even retire. So we looked at first, is this a place we'd want to live? We also looked at, is this a place we would invest in or somebody else would invest in? And then finally, is this a great place that we would visit, but for more than just a day trip? And so with this, we're going to get right into this assessment. And our entire focus for this has been, what else can be done locally to make Johnstown an even better, stronger, more desirable place to live, invest in, and visit? So there is no looking backwards. I am going to tell you need to replace your wayfinding system. But that doesn't mean we should throw somebody under the bus, whoever put that in 20 or whenever years ago. See what I mean? So this is what can we do to make it better. There's no looking back, only forward. So I don't want anybody to say, oh boy, they should have done this or they should. This is not about any should haves. This is what do you do from today forward. And so when we do this, I'm actually going to talk about all of these things. And I don't expect you to read down that list, but I have like 14, promoting anchor tenants all the way down to blade signs. So you're going to see a lot of these kinds of things. And it's all photographic because we took more than 500 photographs while we were here in the last several days. And I'm going to dig right in. The first one is you got to promote your anchor tenants. Now, those are the businesses or the attractions that make you worth a special trip. And you might say, now wait, whoa, Roger, you know what? We're already talking about why you want to promote your best ofs. This is really, really a critical point. Because for the first time in American history, and this is really important for Johnstown, for the first time in history, quality of life is leading economic development. That never happened before. Even Johnstown, you were founded because you had iron ore and you had all the natural resources here to make you a steel town. And it's the same in Wisconsin with paper or other places with textiles. Almost every city in America was founded on either a natural resource or transportation. But now all of a sudden, it's all about quality of life. As by the way, this is out at the dam. I couldn't believe how many locals park out there and they walk that road. And we could just see people doing it. It's beautiful. And so this has changed a lot. As a matter of fact, now tourism is the front door to your non-tourism economic development. Anybody coming here, all these people you see on this list, they're coming here first as what? A visitor. Is this a place their client would want to live and work? Their employees would want to be. And so that is really important. And so even though Lisa represents tourism, this isn't just about tourism. The second thing I want to explain is that she runs a destination marketing organization. It's her job to be your ad agency. But here's the problem with that. Marketing will only get people here once. The only thing that ever brings them back are the experiences. The people they interface with, the amenities like public restroom and parking, that's what brings them back. And so that's why this is concentrating on product development. At the end of the day, you're going to be defined by your product more than any marketing. Whether it's tourism, whether it's local businesses, whether it's economic development. But because of this big change, for the very first time, jobs are going where the talent is or where it wants to be. That has changed everything. And so community development, which is quality of life, is now leading economic development and even tourism development. When we were here, I kept wondering, I wonder how many universities, and you have universities, colleges here, I wonder how many of them are saying, when I graduate, I want to stay here in Johnstown, versus going back to wherever they're from, in Philadelphia, Virginia, wherever they're from. I wonder how many are doing that, but that's your goal. And so welcome to the new reality, and we are now in the age of placemaking. As a matter of fact, probably 3/4 of our work is about downtowns and placemaking. Over the years, I've had to learn how to be an urbanist or an urban planner more than somebody that specializes in tourism and just downtowns. And by the way, the focus of all elected officials, from the President of the United States all the way to school boards, to borough, elected officials, you name it, is to improve the quality of life of our citizens. Governor, you name it. That's the job of an elected official. And so your mission should be, how do we become the most desirable place to live in America or Pennsylvania or heck, even in Cambria County? How do you do that? And so one thing you have to do is you have to put your best ofs out there. And so I believe that every community should create the very best of the Johnstown area or Johnstown area, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, you're going to see a lot of those. These are suggestions. There's no recommendations in this presentation because I'd never talk to you first. I think it'd be something just come in and tell you what you should do when we haven't even talked to you first. And there may be things you say, but Roger, we're already working on it. great, then you've been validated. But remember, we didn't talk to anybody, so we don't know. I've already heard about some great things like the theater next door, or over just that way, just a tiny bit. Didn't know about it. We will. We're going to learn about these things. But I wanted to talk to you about this, create a brochure. And this is one I'm just going to show you. This is just an example. This is Alpena, Michigan. It's a city, it's a county of about 30,000, about 10,000 live in the city. And we always believe it's very important to promote your best ofs. I mean, if you even get people that get travel guides and magazines, nowadays the top 3, top 5, top 10, what are those? And so in this brochure, and here it is right here, and so I'll show this to you right here. I think it's coming, there it is. So these are this is this little town, what they did. And it is so important because what we want is not just a list of what you have. We want to know what makes you worth a special trip. So in this case, they created this little brochure. We want you to create one. And all of these people, by the way, were invited to be in this. And I'm going to give you even the criteria. They each paid like $400 to be in this. So it wasn't who wants to buy a page in this. It was finding the very best ofs and then putting them there. The Besser Museum right here, it couldn't afford $400, but there was enough from everybody else to cover their cost. So these are their best ofs. That's what people want. When people come and stay at a hotel, the first thing they do is they'll go up to a front desk and say, where's a good place to eat? And please don't just hand me a list. Where would you eat? And so with this, what they did with this is they printed 20,000 copies. Then they snail mailed this to every single household in the county, which was about 10,000. And with that, they put this in a little number 10 envelope with a card. And the card said, the number one reason people travel is to visit friends and family. We hope you'll hang on to this brochure so that when you have visitors, you'll share with them the very best of what Johnstown, in your case, and its communities have to offer. Because we believe that every dining room table should be a concierge desk. Within days, people were coming downtown and going, I got this thing in the mail. How long have you been here? And the mercer would go, 10 years. Right? I mean, it was crazy. So what we want you to do is promote your top restaurants, your top retail shops, your top activities, attractions. And we never put lodging in here. Because lodging, the most asked question at a front desk is, where's a good place to eat? And a lot of times, would it be great if they could pull us out and say, well, you know what? Here's the very best of Johnstown in the area. It's got our top restaurant, attractions. And so, but what happens is, a lot of times somebody says, well, you didn't pick me and I'm just as good as them. That would probably never happen here, right? So to get past the politics, I am going to pick them for you. And I may have missed a few because we don't know if we've seen everything. But with this, we actually did criteria. And here it is. Number one is they had to be unique to you. So in other words, we're not going to put Subway in here, no offense. Or Walmart or the chains and franchises. Number two, they needed to have good curb appeal, so we'd want to walk into them. They needed to be open year-round in their case. And they had to be highly regarded by somebody other than themselves. Like 80% positive reviews on TripAdvisor, Yelp, or written up in local area magazines. We thought they should be open till at least 7 p.m. Even for you, we might have to relax that. Because even you tend to roll up your sidewalks at like 5 or 6. And I'm going to talk more about that. And they had to be open 6 days a week. So, what do we put on this list? Yes, we did go see Flight 93, that memorial. Now, you may say, but that's way out of our area. Well, not so fast. As a tourist, we don't mind driving 45. We can make Johnstown our home base and say we're going to make that 45-minute or so drive down there. One nice thing about this is you just go down 219, you turn left, go 9 miles, and there it is. We actually went to Prince Gallitzin State Park. Am I pronouncing that right? We went to the state park, and I didn't put that on this list because that we had to go through like 7 different towns. We're going 20 miles an hour. It took us so long to get there. I couldn't see people going there and then turning around and coming back. See what I mean? They would just stay there or in the area. But this one we did put there, and we had never been there before. As a matter of fact, I didn't even realize it until we were on 219 heading this way from West Virginia. And then all of a sudden we see the signs of 219, the Flight 93 National Memorial. So we thought, well, we have to go do that. So we did check that out, and that should be on your list. Even though it's in a different area, it's still worth a day trip from you. So there you go. There's one. Now there's a reason to spend the night. When we got back, the first thing we did is we had lunch at the Boulevard Grill. The reason we picked this place is because it was rated #1 on TripAdvisor. That's how powerful things like TripAdvisor are. And so we did eat there, and it was fantastic. The girl that served us, she grew up, lived here. She goes, I've been here my whole life. I grew up in Westmont. We didn't know what Westmont was. I said, but are we in Johnstown? She goes, well, actually, I think Boulevard Grill. Is that considered Westmont down there? No, which one is it in? Okay, yeah. So I go, wait a second. So we're not in Johnstown? She goes, well, actually, it is Johnstown. I said, well, what about Westmont? She goes, well, that's Johnstown. And I said, so where do you go when you want to go eat or shop? She goes, well, we go to Richland. I said, so where's that city? She goes, oh, no, it's part of Johnstown. And I go, okay, I'm totally confused. After we actually found Westmont and checked it out, if I was to go back to the restaurant and she waited on us, I'd go, you're from Westmont up there, huh? I mean, it's beautiful up there. So, but one thing I loved about this is they have all these certificates from all over the state. I mean, it was just on the walls. It was like a history lesson in Pennsylvania, and particularly Western Pennsylvania, but just really good food, a really good atmosphere. And by the way, we found when we had to use a nav system to find it. And afterwards, if somebody said, okay, now go downtown Johnstown, to this day, I wouldn't have a clue how to get back downtown. And so that's how confusing it is. So that would be on the list. I think Balance Restaurant would be on the list. Everybody downtown, I said, where's a good place to eat? They all said Balance. It was like 9 out of 10 times Balance. And it was fabulous. It really is fabulous. I'm so glad. You know what? If you had 20 restaurants like that in downtown Johnstown, you'd have Pizza Bowl coming here from Pittsburgh just for your food. You just don't have enough of it. And so absolutely I'd put them. And then I would actually do like a 2-spread page on the flood, on the Great Flood of 1889. And so one thing about this is we didn't know, you should put it in some kind of order of what somebody could do, because this could take a whole day. And I know this is like, 130, 40 years ago, but you know what? It still is a gripping story today, and the lessons you learn from it. And I thought the first thing I would do with this, I would tell them to go to the Flood Museum. And when you go to the Flood Museum, you gotta watch the film. I would start right there because of course, in the museum, they got the big diorama that shows where the lake was, and it shows the whole route of it. And you can even hear people screaming when it hit Johnstown. I mean, it was just really well done. Then what I would do is say, now that you've done that, head over to the National Memorial, which we also thought was very good. And there's a film in there, which is totally different. Seeing these two films really put it in context. But then from there, once you do that, I would there's this little parking lot right down there. And by the way, there's a bunch of goats, and they're starting to clear this side, which actually is awesome. I'm glad they're starting to do that so you can actually see the dam. Otherwise, it's going to get overgrown. But so they were there, and hopefully they're going to move more over there. It was really cool to see the guy putting out the fencing. It's a great environmental way to kind of clean up the hillside there. But I thought it'd be really good to go there. But there was no sign at this parking lot that said, by the way, if you just walk up there, it'll take you to where the spillway used to be. But then I would go over to the other side of the dam, and I think, there's the spillway, of course, over there. I took this picture from the other side, and then over on this side, this is the south side, right? I was trying to get my directions straight. But this is really cool. They put good interpretive sign to tell you where at the very last minute they had like 50 workers there trying to dig a way for the water to escape. And I mean, you all know the history so well. But just even standing here and overlooking this breach was incredible. But you know what really made it hit home was hiking down to the bottom of this. When you hike down the bottom, you can actually see where the big stones were, where they used to have the lower release of the dam that got plugged up. But when you go down there and you look up and you see that lake was like at the top of the trees, I mean, you realize how much water that was. It was like 3.8 billion gallons. Well, how do you put that in any kind of context? Or 20 million pounds? I mean, you just can't even put it in context. But when you're down there, and by the way, they do an incredible job telling the story. But when you're way down there looking at this and thinking, my gosh, we're at the bottom of a lake, you start to realize the gravity. And then I would go over and visit the clubhouse. And I'm going to tell you about that because we had an interesting experience there. We actually didn't get a chance to go into the clubhouse, but we had a hard time finding it. And I'll share that with you. Then what I would do is I would go over to the incline plane. And at the top up there, now you could clearly see the way that water came down. And at the incline plane up there, they actually have that little interpretive display room with big photographs. I mean, just really puts it together. I think, is this the stone bridge that kind of stopped the whole thing? I wasn't too sure because there's no real markers at it. But then when we were done doing all this, and we kind of did it in different order, I said, boy, if somebody did this, and then what they would do, they would end up here. Because what really, really hit home, and even though this was like, it almost brought us to tears, when you go over to the unknown plot, and you see that monument right there, see all the stones behind it? At first, I thought that must be a military burial. Until we realized that these are all unmarked gravestones, 867 people who were unidentified. Can you imagine losing almost 10% of your population in 10 minutes, but then trying to identify your loved ones and you can't? And there's 800 souls laying there. I mean, I just kept imagining this. So even today, it's an incredible, gripping story. But what really is amazing is how resilient this city is. I mean, really. Because when you dig in even further, like at the Discovery Center, which also needs to be on your best of list, you realize that within months, or within, a couple of weeks, the mills were back running. Within a year, the town was being rebuilt. I mean, it was just really gave us a testament to the people that live and settled in this area, in spite of a horrific tragedy like that. So we did this. Now, while we were out there, another best of is the Ranger. I ordered a medium ice cream cone that was like this tall. I'm sitting there, can I eat this fast before it runs all down my hands? I mean, it was unbelievable. You know what skill it takes to make an ice cream cone that tall and have it be straight? I mean, I was pretty amazed. And and of course, while you're there, you might play mini golf right next door. But those are the kinds of things that people are going there because they heard these ice cream cones are so incredibly huge. And by the way, if you get one, a small is enough to feed a family. Yeah. But really cool little place. Loved it. See, look at that. Look at the size of that. Amazing. So these are all in your best of list, your best of brochure. And then absolutely Bottle Works and the Ethnic Art Center. This, I think, is the coolest building in the whole county. I mean, it's just really awesome. And what was really interesting, I was there and I have this big monster camera, and a lady was there. She pulled in her car, rolls down her window and said, "Oh, I'm glad you're here taking pictures. Isn't this beautiful?" And she said, "Make sure you go up to the rooftop garden." And she said, "By the way, see all, the tulips there. I mean, look at this. This is incredible." And she said, when you go over there to the mosaic, if you look really closely, you'll find butterflies and ladybugs right in the mosaics. Did you guys even know that? And then she made the comment, "And there's no crime over here." That was like, okay, what's that saying about downtown, Johnstown? But anyway, and so just really, really cool. So we made sure we did go up on the rooftop garden, and it's just exceptional. I just thought it was awesome. I mean, the fact that they do art education there, the fact that there's a great gift shop, and yes, we did end up spending money there. And the gal that runs it, what's her name again, Lisa? Melody. Melody, is she here? No? Okay, Melody was there, and she was so enthusiastic. When I was carrying that big camera, she took us up the rooftop garden. She says, "See over there? That's going to be a plaza. We're going to create a plaza. We're going to take all that stone and then look at the gardens over here." I mean, she was just like, wow, I love this place. I mean, we just fell in love with Cambria City. Even things like these cool benches with a wire frame filled full of stones were really, really awesome. Just the gardens and just everything. Even these Jersey barriers that are all painted are just exceptional. We did not want to leave Cambria City. And by the way, somebody had to tell us that, yes, it is in fact part of Johnstown. Because I was going to go, what am I going to tell Lisa? We spent all our time in a different town. But, and I would, what I would do in this? I would actually do a walking tour of Cambria City. And what you could do is take a lesson from, this is Carson City, Nevada. See that blue line? It's actually like wide duct tape. It was fairly inexpensive, and they actually did a history walking tour. But I thought, man, if you did a little walking tour through Cambria City, because we found some really cool stuff over there. But we were walking up and down from between 1st and 10th or 3rd and 10th, whatever it is, by the car wash. We kept walking up and down all the streets trying to find things because it's amazing architecture, amazing culture from Byzantine to East European. I mean, just about every culture you could imagine. But just really, really a cool place. And so we thought if you could do some kind of a walking tour to take us through Cambria City would be awesome. And actually maybe you follow that blue line, and maybe at each end you have little brochure holders that would say what you're going to see, or even an app. Nowadays you can do an app, and as you walk along it says, oh, now you're in front of this chapel, or you're in front of this. But even the businesses there, I mean, that's just stunning. I'm going, wow, this is really cool. I know that's a florist, but I kept going, wouldn't that be a cool restaurant with a bunch of tables and chairs in there? And by the way, I'm not trying to get rid of the florist. I just thought this would be a really cool place with tables and chairs in that little courtyard. I mean, just everywhere we went was full of really cool stuff. And we're walking around, and we even saw this, and we thought, well, what is this? And what's so cool about this is a private piece of property that's open to the public. And I think that is so cool. I mean, we went in there, photographed it. We were there for like half an hour, and they just talked about contemplation and, the Stations of the Cross. I just thought it was exceptional. I'm going, I love this little town or this little borough or whatever it is. It's just awesome, and of course, these are just really, really well done. But when you first come in, it says Cambria City. Underneath it could put Johnstown's Culture and Arts District, so it is part of Johnstown. And we'll talk about that. But there's even cool little hidden gems, like if you ever want to see the 7 dwarves, there they are. They're on this fence. But it took us, we actually went back to find this. And this is the beam from 9/11 from the Twin Towers. But we didn't even see it the first time because there was so much to see. And it's kind of hidden right next to that little parking garage. But we thought that was great. Now, one suggestion I would have for this, it doesn't look like the flag has been replaced since it was put there. The flag is all tattered, worn, faded. And maybe, this is the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. Maybe somebody this September would take that flag down and put a good one up there again. But it kind of looked like it had been ignored once it was put up. But everywhere we went, there was just really cool stuff. And the houses seemed to be well taken care of. And of course, while we were there for hours, and we ended up eating at Ryan's, which was phenomenal. I just go, wow, where did this come from? It's really a great little bakery. I mean, paninis, you name it. And I was so glad that when we went, there wasn't a lot of people walking around Cambria City. But they were busy, and I was so glad, because you want small business like this to really do well. And it's absolutely a best of. And then, of course, Asiago's, am I pronouncing that right? Up on top of the incline, we did have dinner there. And to give you an idea, you guys are really short on fine dining. I mean, this place was packed. We had to make a reservation. We tried to do it the same day, and they went, "Are you kidding?" Well, they didn't actually say that, but it was like, yeah, right. So we did make reservations for the next day. We had to get there early because it was pretty full every day. But it's fantastic. Really good food and a great atmosphere. And of course, the incline plane would be on that. Secret shopping we couldn't figure out why it was never open, because there's really no signs down below. We finally found a sign up above, and I'll tell you about that coming up here. But this was cool, telling you about the whole incline plane, which I thought was exceptional. So obviously it would be on your best of list. And so would this I call it a public arts market. I think it would be a better name than just craft and vendor shop. But we saw in the windows it was full of little craft vendors, and we thought this was great. I thought it was a great way to showcase your local artisans, whether they're making chocolate or whether they're making homemade gifts, and I was taking pictures in there, and I think the lady who runs it says, we usually don't like people taking pictures. People come in, they take pictures of other people's creations, then try to recreate it. And I assured her, no, I'm just doing it for this presentation. I think that's great, and I'm glad it's right in downtown. We almost missed it. If we hadn't walked by it, we would have never even known it existed. But I think it's the best of. I think downtown Ebensburg, am I pronouncing that right? I think it's fabulous. Now that's a downtown. I mean, it's cute, it's intimate, there's sidewalk cafe dining. It was just really great. And I think that's worth a day trip for somebody. They could still easily come back to Johnstown. Even floating, by the way, you notice something here. I put down floating the river at Stony Creek. This is phenomenal. And you might say, but that's across the county line. I think the county line runs right down the middle of the river, right? Something like that. It doesn't matter. People could care less about county lines. Have you ever gone anywhere because it was a county? No, we don't. And so this is really beautiful. But you don't promote the river, you promote the activity, which is floating, river rafting, whatever it is. Always promote the activities. But we were there, and it was just stunning. That was just really, really pretty. We also went and found the Staple Bend Tunnel. However, we got there, it was dumping down rain, and we didn't realize till we got there that it was a 2.5 mile hike just to the front of the tunnel. That you probably should tell people. And in our case, we just didn't have time. Otherwise, we would have walked down there. But the interpretive signs here are very well done. And when we got there, it was just dumping down rain. But what's amazing about this, it's like 900 feet long. This was hand dug. Think about that, hand digging a tunnel like that. Once again, it brings you back to the people here, the resilience, the ingenuity, whatever they want, the hardships, everything they went through is pretty amazing. And I had to steal this photo because we didn't get a chance to go there. And I don't know, is there another side to it that you can get to, or do you have to hike to it to get to it?
No, there's a path of the flood that you can hike from.
You can, okay, so there is that. So, and we didn't know that. But so we also found that should be on the best. This is quite a list. And then there's George's record store, America's oldest record store. I'm telling you, this is incredible. I mean, I wasn't too sure about this, and we just happened upon it. But I mean, I was, and I came from the music industry. I used to work in the concert industry until I was working with Fleetwood Mac, and they pretty much got me out of the concert industry. They're legendary for trying to kill each other, pretty much. But in this case, and they were great, by the way, but in this case, it was just like, wow, it took me back to my music industry roots. And it's just phenomenal. I've never seen a store like that. I just thought, and here it is in downtown Johnstown. And of course, we did load up on chocolates over here across the street. And one thing I put up here is at some from a curb appeal standpoint, I wasn't even sure if they were open to the public. Because I could see they do fundraising opportunities, gift baskets, corporate gifts. So I thought maybe they're just more of an online, but it is. It's open to the public. But once again, curb appeal is so important. And so, but it's, once again, it's a best of. So if you go through this list, look at the stuff that we're putting on this list. I mean, and some of these you have to work on, like a city walk, and and we may have missed a couple of them. I mean, we found what we could, but if you look at this, I mean, I don't see why anybody wouldn't come here, particularly as a visitor, from pretty much anywhere. I don't care whether you're in Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, I mean, any of the states, Ohio, you name it, anywhere around you. That is an amazing list. Now, remember what I said about quality of life is leading economic development? You put this in front of somebody, they're going, oh my God, look at this stuff. And it will tell you if you have like 2 or 3 panels on just the flood, the first flood. I mean, it's just amazing what you have here. And we were blown away. So now, that's number 1. I would also promote your hidden gems. I would actually have a second brochure. So you might have the very, very best of Johnstown and area, or the Johnstown area, but you also might say, here's the hidden gems. And on that, I would probably put B&L Wine Cellars. Now, the reason it's not on the other list is because it's only open a couple days a week. It was never open that we've been there. Yesterday, we had to put this together, and I think they're only open like on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. If they were open more, I'd say, boy, we should go over there. So we never had a chance to go in there. So I'd probably put it in the hidden gems. Remember what I said about being open 6 days a week, or whatever your criteria ends up being. I mean, the Johnstown Greenway Trail, we found this by accident. We'd read about it, had no idea where it was at. But we just happened to be walking over here and go, oh, there's the Greenway Trail. Now, one thing that could be used there would be, I don't know how far this goes. I don't know where it starts. It tells you who helped pay for it, but nothing about the trail itself. So that's something you could add, because we didn't walk down it because I don't know where it goes, where it ends up, how far it goes. I don't even know where it starts. So what you could use, rather than just our funding sources, which I think should be thanked, I think it'd be great if you had, a little more information, like here's where you are along the Greenway Trail, how far you could walk. That would be really helpful. But it's great, it tells about the history right there. So that's a great hidden gem. Sergeant Michael Strank's Iwo Jima Memorial over in, this is Franklin, right? Am I getting that? Okay. And is that still part of Johnstown, or is it totally separate now? It's totally separate. See, this is like, but from a visitor standpoint, we don't care. We don't care. It was still in this area. But I thought that was really, really well done. Did a good job of telling the story. And to be one of those very few people that were there at that part of time is just amazing. I would also put on your hidden gem Stackhouse Park. We didn't have a chance. Once again, we're here for a week and still didn't have a chance to go hike all these places. And I think this is like 275 acres. It looked pretty phenomenal. And I thought this is one of those hidden gems that people should know about. And maybe some of these should be over on the other list. I'm not too sure. There wasn't a lot of parking there for it. But I thought really cool, the chainsaw carvings. And I mean, it's just great. We also found up there the hiker bike, the If You Dare. I mean, looking how steep that is. I went, really? People are biking down that. And but there's 2 trails there. And one thing you might add is some signs. There's this trail and another trail. I don't know which is which. I don't know if one is steeper, more rugged than the other one. That's what my guess is, or if one's more for hiking, one's more for biking. It'd be good if there's a little information. But I knew that bikes would go here because there's actually a tire pump here at this place, which I thought was pretty cool. Talk about getting ready. And then, of course, Luzerne Street and Westmont. Once we went up to Westmont, we sat there going, I want that house, that house, that house, that house. I'll take that one. Yeah, that'd be fine. Oh, this one would be just great. I mean, that is unbelievably beautiful up there. And I mean, just like, yeah, I'll take that one. And this is probably one of my favorite houses I've ever seen. If anybody know who owns this, please let us know so we can contact them. We'd like to move in. No, we'd like to just see it. But we're up there and it was just so peaceful, and I wouldn't tell people to drive. I'd say, walk it, just walk it, and it's just beautiful up there. Now the neighbors may say, Roger, would you please not promote that? That's our neighborhood. We'd really appreciate if you don't. That's why I put it more as a hidden gem. But once again, that was really, really beautiful up there. I mean, we're just like, wow, where did this come from? And then, of course, I think another hidden gem is the International Flag Plaza. It tells you who funded it again, but it doesn't tell you anything of why it's there. And I think the reason it's there is because of look at all the nationalities you've had in Johnstown over the years, whether it's Eastern European or Chinese or Asian or whatever all these are. There's this whole pavilion. I think it would be great if you said, this is how this ties into this area. As a matter of fact, when it came to branding, I kept going, maybe this should be the International City. I'm not sure how much of it is left. All these different cultures, but I thought it was really cool and really added a lot of color right there. I would also even promote Dooman Lake, as you pronounce it, Dooman, for like stand-up paddleboarding or canoeing or kayaking. I think it would be phenomenal. I thought it was beautiful. It just shows some of the outdoor recreation. And then while we were here, we saw this Ghost Town Trail, which I'd heard about Ghost Town Trail in something. Maybe it was the tourism guide or something. But it'd be good if there was like a trail map. I don't know how long it is, where it goes, what it does, whether it's all paved or whether some of it's gravel, whether it's ADA accessible. There's no information. It just says trail here. But that sounded like it would be really fun. Where's it go? Why should I hike it? We also saw the Conemaugh Gap Scenic Overlook, but really there's no overlook anymore. I mean, all you see is trees. You can't even see how deep it is. And I'm not saying you should go mow down all the trees, but I just kept not sure whether you should even market it because you look, that's all you see. You have no clue how deep it is. And it says it's the deepest gap east of the Mississippi. I think that's right? Yeah, deepest gap. But you can't see it. So maybe even if there was photos of it there, just so you could get the gravity of how deep that is there, would be pretty cool. But when you're standing there, it is now just full of trees, So maybe before photos, I'm not too sure. Now, while we were there, this was there. This is an amazing story. Now, I'm not sure, because the flood didn't go through there, right?
Yes. It did
after it hit Cambria City, it kept going down that way. Because there is this story here, and reading the story almost brings you to tears. This is a lady telling the account of, I can't remember whether she was on one of the rail cars, but they were on shore throwing ropes to people that were, like she said, there was a son and mom on a roof floating by, and he was trying to comfort the mom, and they didn't want any help. They were probably terrified, and so they watched them. They went down and they hit a bridge, and they're gone. She told these stories of these people, girl floating by just praying, and it was just like, wow. I thought this should probably be in the Flood Museum, or I wasn't sure why it was there, but I thought these personal accounts like that are incredible. And then, of course, aggressive driver, high crash area. I like the aggressive driver part, but I guess this must be a real problem out here, huh? So I thought, okay, that's really good. I didn't know whether I should be aggressive or be careful because it's a high crash area. I just got a kick out of it. I don't know why. I don't know. So, we came to Galina's Pizza. Now, I got to tell you that we were here, we were late, it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're starving for lunch. So we came here to the Holiday Inn, and of course the restaurant's closed between lunch and dinner. And their great general manager sitting back there, we didn't know who he was. We came in, I'm carrying that big camera, and he didn't know who we were at all, right? He had no clue. We come in, and I says, he goes, I'm sorry, the restaurant's closed. He was right at the restaurant. And I went, I thought it would be open all day. He goes, you know what? If you just walk down to the street to Galina's Pizza, just right down there. I mean, rather than say, I'm sorry, we're closed. He said, if you don't like that, he said we could go the other direction. There were some tacos. They have really good soft tacos. I wish we could have found that kind of help everywhere. I mean, he didn't just turn us away. He said, you ought to go down. So we went down there. And of course I walked in and I said, I just want to let you know the Holiday Inn sent us down there. He goes, oh yeah, he orders stuff from here all the time. They knew exactly who referred us there. And I'm telling you, the guy that has that place, he is as Italian as they come. But from curb appeal, I'm not sure we would have gone there. But because it was a referral there, we went there, we had lunch there, it was awesome. And they were fine, took us at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought it was awesome. I thought it was just a great hidden gem right there that we would never have known about and probably would have never gone in. I think this would be a great selfie spot. I wish you had one a little closer. You have to kind of go behind the arena. Am I getting that right? And then you stand there in the fence, and I guess you could get it. But I just thought there's probably a better place for it. That'd be a little more scenic, with all the flood embankments and everything. It's not the picturesque, but you can do some cool things there. I thought it was a great hidden gem. And then, of course, the Veterans Memorial is another one of those hidden gems. But when you start looking at all of these things, I think I would even do more. These are cool. I love this town. All of a sudden, we started having a different, because what we saw, you're going to see our first impression was of Johnstown. But once we saw these, we're just like, this is really cool. These are awesome. I mean, talk about turning lemons into lemonade. I think just absolutely incredible. And then, of course, we had heard about Schaffers. And what's interesting is when we were up at the cemetery, there was a whole section for Schaffers. So or is it pronounced Schaffers? Schaffers, okay. So I think somebody said, go to Schaefer's Ice Cream. But we figured this must be a family that's been here for generations based on the same spelling of the name up there. But once again, great ice cream. It's hard to go on a diet and be in Johnstown, I'll tell you that. This here has been closed the whole time we've been here. I guess they're remodeling it or refurbishing it, or it said it was going to be open one day, so we went there and it still wasn't open. But I got to tell you that based on curb appeal, we would probably never eat there. Just because look at it. Does it look like a nice place to eat? And I know somebody said it has new ownership and that they're doing a lot of things. I hope they also do the outside. I'd paint all this. I don't know why everything in downtown Johnstown has to be gray, beige, and brown. It's like, come on, give it some color. Take a lesson from Cambria City, But from what we hear, it's cool. So if we go down this list, I mean, you'd go down through your very best selves. You go down through these little hidden gems, and I'll bet you could name 10 more hidden gems that we didn't even find or know about. You know, I mean, I just think that, this is pretty phenomenal what you have. And so you can also tell we found a lot of stuff. And so here's the thing. You have lots of great things to do. There's no question this would be a great visitor destination. But this whole assessment is about what can we do to make it even better. And so let's get into this. The third thing I do is, what do you want to be known for when you grow up? You know what? Like I said earlier, almost every single city and town was founded on natural resources or transportation, and almost every city in America has lost that core industry. So what's your second act or third act, whatever it is? What do you want to be known for? And I was here this whole week saying, what does Johnstown want to be known for? You know, I always say, before you do anything in downtown Johnstown, what do you want to be known for? If you want to be known for kids and family, where do we put the carousel? Where do we put a splash pad? What kind of retail do we need to put downtown that will attract families? If you want to be about food, then where do we have more restaurants, and how do we attract those restaurants so that we become a foodie destination? If you want to be known for nightlife, then where do we have our performing arts, and is there music at local bars and taverns and restaurants? Is there, what do you want to be known for? And so my whole thing is, what should Johnstown be known for? You know, because you know what, being the flood city is an incredible history, but you know, you went from being the flood city to the flood-proof city. That didn't work out very well either. And so I just thought, you need to be, this is a new Johnstown. There is no more lakes that are going to burst. Yeah, who knows, you may have a flood. I already had one in 77. But you know what do you want to be known for? And before you do anything, I always say, what do you want to be known for? And then we'll attract the right businesses. We'll make it look like that. We'll make it feel like that. But what sets us apart from everyone else? Here's what you have to understand. When people use the internet, they're not looking for cities. So if you say Johnstown, PA, and all of a sudden the city's website pulls up, woohoo, we're number one. You're the only one looking for a city. Everybody else is looking for top school districts in Pennsylvania. You notice something about that search. Pennsylvania is at the end, not the beginning of that search term. Or we might be looking for best hiking trails in Western Pennsylvania. We always put in what we're looking for and then the general location last. You know, or here I did top arts towns in Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia came up, and I'm going, really? I mean, I know that Philadelphia's done a fantastic job with murals and stuff, but York, Gettysburg, Wayne, or we'll type in what I put there, best Italian restaurants near Johnstown. But even in that case, Johnstown is at the end, not at the beginning. This is how we use the web. Or, you know, here it is, best river rafting in Western Pennsylvania. And by the way, if you don't, and there were top school districts in Western Pennsylvania. I could have Southern, Central, wherever. But here's what you have to understand. Location is always second to what puts you on the map. Because people aren't looking for Cambria County. They're not looking for Johnstown specific. Some people might, but this is what's really important. So what is it you want to be known for? And then when people search for that, you're going to pop up number one. And so I think that's really, really important. And that's where branding comes in. And by the way, branding is not about logos and slogans. It's what you want to be known for besides a flood. You know, in Pennsylvania, there's 1,015 incorporated places. I think 900 of them are in Cambria County. No, it just seems. But you know, what sets you apart from the others? How do you stand apart? What sets you apart? So what do you have the people you're hoping to attract can't get or do closer to home if you want them out of Pittsburgh or Penn or anywhere, State College, anywhere? And so you have two choices. You can either be different or clearly better. So like you have 4 miles of class 3, class 4 rapids in the spring. You know, those might be the best in that niche. So somebody put river rafting in Pennsylvania and say, well, we have 4 miles of the top rated river rafting. That might be one little niche you'd be known for. You know, but I don't know that that's your whole brand. But you have to be either different or better. So if you're not different, then you better be better than anything else we can find in the states around you and within like, you know, a 2 or 3 hour drive. And so even in the Destination Development Association, which I'm part of, there are videos, because I'm not going to go through the whole branding thing, but I think it's very, very important for you to understand how important this is. And all successful brands are built on product, the experiences that back it up. So what sets you apart from everyone else? So who takes the lead in this would be the organizations that represent the private sector, like Chamber of Commerce represents the private sector, Economic Development represents private sector, even tourism is about private sector. It's restaurants, hotels, it's attractions. You know, a downtown association or a business improvement district, they represent the private sector. Large employers, arts organizations, I mean, you know, local foundations can be on this. And you know, you don't have to go far to find well-branded cities like, guess where that picture was taken? You know, Hershey. I mean, Nashville's known for country music. Hershey's known for chocolate. Lancaster's known for Amish. Lidditz is known for its little downtown. Napa Valley for wine. I mean, Orlando, kids and family. Vegas and casinos and entertainment. And so it has to be done by people that represent the private sector. Your elected officials cannot choose your brand because elected officials were elected to be all things to all people, and a brand can't be. Have you ever gone anywhere because they had something for everyone? No, we go where there's something specific that we like, whether it's art, music, culture, what is it, whatever it is. And so if you wanted to do this publicly, this is how this goes, because almost every successful brand was done by 2 to 6 people. I mean, Orlando, Anaheim, and Disney World. You know, they thought Walt Disney was crazy. You know, but if you want to do it publicly, first of all, there's that Brooks guy came in and we're really pumped about branding Johnstown. And then we start the planning of it. And then there's disillusionment because we narrowed our focus and decided not to be all things to all people. And then there's fear and panic and search for the guilty, and then punishment of the innocent, and then finally praise and honors for the non-participants. Did I get that about right? Yeah. And so I'll give you one good example. York. Now, when we started working in York, it was like, I don't know what your brands are perceptions. It's what people think of you. So when you tell somebody, I'm from Johnstown, what do they say? Do they say, oh, I'm really sorry? Or do they say, oh, what a cool place? See what I mean? A brand is perception. Now, I don't know what your perception was of York, but when we were working there, the general perception of York was steer clear, right? This is downtown York. And they decided to become, you know, the attraction is more scientific. It's all about creativity. And they actually have, you know, we came up with the tagline, Creativity Unleashed. And that's York wallpaperings, York wall coverings is where they design, build Harley Davidsons. I mean, York is known for its glass, its steel, a lot of those things. So they did this whole thing about why you should choose York. And you know, it's like, you know, meet York. I mean, this is their website. It's live here, visit us, work here. And it's all about this kind of creativity unleashed. And what's really cool about this, there's a couple of young guys in their 20s at the time that did this thing called salvaging creativity, where they would go to junkyards and they would pick up steel and metal and all kinds of stuff. And they started making all of these things and putting them all over in downtown York. See, so once you're known for something, they decided, let's make it obvious what we're about. They have the oldest farmers market in the country, but they started doing this, and this is salvaging creativity. They now sell stuff around the world. Like there it is, York wall coverings right there since 1895 or whatever it is. Look at this, the Industrial Plaza. I mean, they create, everything they do fits this brand. Even their, the market district in downtown, their pole banners, even their wayfinding all fits this. See what I mean? So once you decide what you're about, then let's make it look like that. So when we drive into town, we know what you're about. We know what Cambria City's about. I'm not so sure about Johnstown downtown. But even these couple guys, they go get all these little welding balls, and look what they did to the trash cans in downtown York. Is that cool or what? It's amazing. And they just took, they're building the stuff downtown. Old warehouses are now now have like glass fabricators, metal fabricators, wood, anything that's architectural and kind of that steel, that kind of a look is coming from York, Pennsylvania now. Here they are installing that right downtown. And during 2008, the Great Recession, they could not keep these condo apartments they were selling like crazy. So even they weathered the storm. And so sometimes communities need some rebranding or repositioning. I'm not sure about Johnstown. I haven't heard anything negative about it, but I'm not sure if I went into Pittsburgh and asked, have you been to Johnstown, or I live in Johnstown, what would they say? And that's your brand in their mind. So what do you want to be known for? Now, probably they say, oh, we know them for the flood. Well, that was 140 years ago. I think it's an important part of your history. But what do you want to be known for today, in the future? And so one thing that I kept thinking of, man, I would love to see Art Space here. Art Space is a nonprofit based out of Minneapolis. They come into cities and towns. We're working in Michigan City, Indiana, another steel town, in the Rust Belt. And that building right there was empty. Art Space did a partnership with the city of Michigan City that is now full of artisans. They live there and they work there. And the whole bottom floor is all their workspace, gallery space. You know what? You have a ton of creativity here. It's hard to find it. You can see it in Cambria City, but in Johnstown, I didn't really see much here. But I just thought, man, maybe Art Space would be good. I could see them taking buildings like a couple of these that are pretty much boarded up, and they come in, they totally restore these. They own them, and then they turn them into artist live workspace. And so I just thought there's lots of opportunities for you, and I'm not sure what's occupied, what's unoccupied. But you already have some places that already have a brand. I mean, Richland is Johnstown shopping district. People say, where do you go shopping? Richland. Everybody says Richland. You go up there and it's all the big boxes and, chain restaurants, those kinds of things. There's a couple other cool things up there. Somebody said we should eat at Nico's. Is that right? Up there. We didn't have a chance to do that. But it's obviously Johnstown's shopping district. And then Cambria City is Johnstown's cultural arts district. And that's why I thought where you said Cambria City, you should put underneath it, our cultural arts district. Westmont, Johnstown's beautiful historic residential area, or district. And so for downtown Johnstown, I don't know, is it music? Is it art? Is it food? Is it nightlife? What do you want your focus to be? And so I think that's really important. Okay? So that's about branding. Number 4, you should make downtown Johnstown a priority. And I want to give you, this is all these organizations you see coming up. Ask people in their 20s, 30s, and early 40s, what would make you want to live somewhere? So these might be people in Pittsburgh, over in Philly, over anywhere. And so they ask them, what do they want? And these are in order of importance. So here you go. Here's your marching orders. The number one thing they want is safety, particularly for kids. Number 1. Not jobs, safety. That's number 1. So they want to feel safe. Number 2, they want a good educational system and childcare. Okay? Now, one thing you need to understand is us boomers, we're having kids in our early 20s. Millennials and Gen Xers are having their kids in their late 30s and early 40s. And so they're actually better, more responsible parents because they're having them a little later in life. And so they can see what their whole thing is tend to be towards families. Number 3 is they want an engaged community. They want a sense of belonging, and that is your downtown. That's number 3 on the list. But they also want some cultural depth. We want visual arts, performing arts, education, food. That's why I was so glad to hear about the theater happening next door. And by the way, where would you find that? Downtown. And then here's number 5 on the list. They want life after 6 o'clock. And that would be downtown. By the way, we spend the night in hotels where there's things to do after 6 o'clock. You have a convention center here. You know why conventions go to places? They go to places because there's things to do after 6 o'clock. Nobody wants to go to your convention center and then come right back over here to the Holiday Inn and then go in their room and watch TV for the next 4 hours because your downtown is for the most part shut down, rolled up. So that is big. Okay, number 6, top-notch recreation. That you got. You got that in spades. And that is whether it's the rivers, which you have several of, the lakes, it's your trail systems, it's your sporting facilities. That you've got that one. And then health, particularly for kids. When we talk about health, we're talking about clean air and water. We're talking about healthcare. We're talking about farmers markets, which you have, locally produced goods, family services. And I think your healthcare, what I saw in Johnstown, is like your main industry. I'm not sure if that's right, but you have healthcare like I've never seen in a city of this size. So that's probably good news. And then number 8 is transportation, transit, bike lanes, ride share, even school transportation. Walkability is really important for them. That's number 8. Number 9 is we want affordability and quality, and you got both of those. I did see a few houses that were like crumbling inside, but generally speaking, you've got your housing prices are exceptionally low. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, but it's a great way to attract young people. And we're talking about starter homes, move-ups, nice neighborhoods, or even older people downsizing. And then number 10 on the list is jobs. That never happened. Johnstown, it was steel. People came here because there were jobs, and they were good paying jobs. They paid like $1.50 a day, back 130 years ago. To them, this was big money here. But today, look at that, number 10. If the quality of life is that good, we're going to find a job or we'll create a job. This is totally flipped around. But here's the scoop. Downtown is your litmus test. I've done a lot of site selection work. Downtown is the litmus test. We're going to walk downtown Johnstown and we're going to base an investment on what we see, what we feel. And so it's the health of your downtown economically is how we judge the health of your city. Good or bad. And downtown should be your best recruitment tool. I think, for young people, I would take them right over to Cambria City and spend as much time as you can over there with them because they're going to find that as cool, hip. You can see it's moving in the right direction, And by the way, downtown's create a sense of community. It's your third place. And just so you know, downtown should be your nucleus. I'm talking about the downtown Johnstown. But when I talk about third places, the first place is the place we live. It's our home. The second place is the place we work. The third place is the place we go to hang out. That's Asheville, North Carolina right there. Heck, Starbucks built an entire brand out of creating third places where you can go get a cup of coffee for $8.50. Yeah. But you can spend all day there. And so downtowns and tourism reduce the tax burden placed on local residents. you know. And so you want your commercial areas to be a good, healthy part of your tax base and not an area that isn't worth much. Anything you invest in downtown is going to be investment, not just an expense. And I think that's really important. You know, I was working in North Dakota, and Governor Doug Burgum there, he made Main Street the top of the state's 5 strategic initiatives. In North Dakota, they have more than 100,000 jobs that pay more than 6 figures a year. Yet people go, I don't want to live in North Dakota. It's like the frozen tundra. And so he said, you know what? We're never going to change this perception of us unless we start making downtowns better in our state. But that's how important it is. And when we talk about placemaking, I don't want you don't have to read this whole thing. It's this multifaceted approach to planning, design, programming, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. But this is placemaking. It is, where is it? I know it's coming here. There, what's the focus? What's our focus in downtown Johnstown? That's your brand. What's it feel like? What does it look like? And then what happens there? What are the activities? And then who's going to take care of it? And then what's included? Furnitures, fixtures, equipment to make downtown go. And so with placemaking, it's all about public gathering areas, wide sidewalks, plazas, public markets, seating areas, things to do, shops, eateries, sidewalk cafes, extensive beautification. All of these things are all part of downtowns and of placemaking, including that one. So, just so you know, downtowns are now about people, not cars. The number one priority of people now is a pedestrian-friendly experience. And that's happening all across America. Consider this, only 70% of millennials have a driver's license and the average age is 24. That's certainly different than when I was growing up, but on your 16th birthday, by God, you were down there getting your license. We have a daughter who's 30, I don't know how she is, 32 or something now. She still doesn't have a driver's license. That just made me sound pretty old, didn't it? So, across the country, we're moving to the European standard. These towns were built before the automobile, and now they're more popular than ever. You know, that is what's happening everywhere in Europe. It's coming to the United States. We're working in Belfast, Ireland, which used to be one of the B's you avoided. Belfast, Beirut, Baghdad. You know, but now they're shutting down streets and making it all about pedestrians. You know, even in this is Santa Monica, California, where they shut off 3rd Street to vehicles. And I'm not saying you're going to shut off cars in your downtown, but you got to make it more about people. Heck, look at New York City. In Manhattan, they shut down 60 miles of lanes of traffic. It used to be the most congested city in the United States. Now it's not even in the top 3. After shutting down 60 miles of lanes of traffic. This used to be a right-hand turn corner. They put in 45 of these little corner plazas. I mean, this used to be a taxiway, and now look at it. It's all pedestrians and bicycles. It's happening everywhere. A Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado. This was taken late one night. That's why you don't see a lot of activity, but it's an amazing place. So cities everywhere are widening their sidewalks, narrowing their streets, and they're making their downtowns be about people, not cars. You know, I went around Central Park. I thought, what would happen if we closed off all 4 streets around it and let those restaurants and everything, and let that all open up onto a park? You got parking garages everywhere, and they're mostly empty. And so I thought, what if, you know, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not suggesting that, but just thinking that way. You know, it's all these, this is Newport on the Levee across the river from Cincinnati. You know, I mean, New Orleans, you name it. It's happening everywhere. So when you have places like this, do not get rid of these to add more parking. You need wider sidewalks, lots of bulb outs like this, I think would be phenomenal. You need even more of them. I would also like to see, this is where your visitor information center is. Like these 3 spaces should be like 20-minute parking free so that people could go inside and get visitor information without having to pay for parking, just for the chance to go and get information so they could spend money in your city. I think that'd be great for those 3 spaces there. 20 minutes, no charge, and I think would be awesome. You also, I couldn't find hardly any crosswalks anywhere in downtown Johnstown. There's none right here. We're right here by the visitor information, but there's no crosswalks. And so I did this workshop called Shift Happens. I want to share a couple little things in this. And these are some of the shifts you're going to see. Coming into downtowns, by the way, it's no longer about Macy's, Penny's, Sears, all those big department stores coming to the end of their life. Hopefully Macy's can hang on. I think Sears is pretty much gone. Penny's is pretty much gone. What's coming back into downtown is Etsy style shops. It's those little bakeries. As a matter of fact, what's coming in downtown, be really successful in downtown Johnstown, would be, you got it, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. These shops are doing great. One thing you have to understand, at your heyday, Johnstown had about 60,000 residents. Now you're down to 20,000 or 25, I don't even know what it is, 30,000, whatever it is that you're at now in this area. Here's the other thing, is you have way too much retail built because you also have to take into account Amazon. 50% of the households in America pay the $100+ to pay to be Amazon Prime members. Guilty as charged. So think about that. So we tend to be overbuilt. So what you have to do is what they did in Detroit. They started taking stuff out and downsizing it down in. And these, when it comes to attracting businesses, this is what's coming into downtowns. So another shift. Moving into downtowns are not millennials, it's boomers. Empty nesters love living in downtowns. We don't need to take care of the yard anymore. I got to tell you, the younger people always say, the millennials are moving into town. Not so fast. The second they have kids, they want to live in the suburbs like everybody else. And so these people have money, disposable money. They would love living in upper story. As long as you have a quality downtown, they'll come there in a heartbeat. Another shift. Downtowns are about life after 6 o'clock. Downtowns are not about 8 to 5. Sorry. And that's what I've seen it in downtown Johnstown at 7:30 in the morning. Cars coming in, going to the hospitals and going to work. And then at 5 o'clock, boom, the big exodus. They're not hanging out in downtown, they're leaving. But this is the future downtowns. And if you want conferences, conventions, and think about this as visitors. You go out there, we could go river rafting, we could go play golf, we could go hiking, we could go you are a recreational paradise. Whether it's hunting, fishing, you name it, we do it all during the day. We come back to you at the end of the day and you're closed. That is a challenge. Another shift that's really important is this one, which I already mentioned, that people are having their kids later in life. As a matter of fact, fathers now spend twice as much time with their kids as our generation did. That's good news. And 72% both parents work. That's a whole lot different than my parents, where the mom was the stay-at-home mom, and but now they both work. So convenience rules the day. Meal kit delivery. Here's another big shift. Is the average time for dinner in the United States is now 7 to 7:30. In the 50s, 60s, and even early 70s, it was 5:30 to 6. In Western Europe, it's 9 o'clock at night. We're moving that way. Yet you have restaurants that close at 7? Really? So you have to understand this shift. And here's another one. This is a big one. 70% of all consumer bricks and mortar spending is after 6 o'clock. And you wonder why they're all going to Richland. because all those retailers belong to the National Retail Federation where those figures came from. And so after work, if you want to do any shopping, you're not going to go downtown Cambria City, downtown Johnstown. You're going to go up to Richmond because they're open later. And that's too bad. And so there's the big question. We even did videos on how to stay open after 6 o'clock. It is something you can do, and it takes a while to do. But the number one priority is decompressing in your downtown, which should be a community living room. That's the number one priority. This is what people want. Maybe not in those crowds, you know. That was taken pre-COVID. And so, but look at this, improving quality of life. So here's the deal, is if you want, what comes first in downtown is not retail. Retail goes wherever people are on a consistent basis. So if you can get people to hang out in downtown Johnstown 250 days a year, you'll have no retail vacancies. Wherever people hang out, retail follows. But you can't do it on a weekly farmer's market or 1 or 2 concerts a year. It needs to be consistent. And so that's really, really important. You know, activities. Think about things you have at home, you know, where people are out in backyard. Can you imagine doing fire pits downtown in the winter months? Think about even benches and chairs. Why do we put these in front of our house? Because it makes our home feel welcoming. Yet, me trying to find benches in downtown Johnstown, good luck with that. You know, I would ask your neighbors, what kind of activities could we do in downtown Johnstown to get you to want to spend more time there? You know, I mean, whether it's, you need more, I mean, Balance was the only place I saw with outdoor dining in the entire city. I mean, they do have it over in Cambria City at Ryan's. He's got some outdoor dining. But generally speaking, I mean, you know, it was hard to find. I mean, Asiago's has some outdoor dining, but it's pretty rare to find in downtown. These little places where we can go to hang out. You know, even we've seen towns do pop-up. This is taking up like 6 parking spaces. And by the way, if you give up parking to create activities like this and somebody yells at you, you take away the parking, you're going to kill my business. Here's what you tell them. Are you telling me your business isn't worth walking 2 blocks for? Think about this. The average shopper at Walmart parks 320 feet away from the front door. Average. That means half of them are walking more than 320 feet. Yet they have no problem walking 320 feet and then walking all the way to the back of the store to buy a Blu-ray or a DVD. They just walk 2 blocks. It just has to be worth it. But having music, street vendors, I mean, food trucks, these don't even have to, this is in Asheville, all unamplified music. I mean, I can imagine you doing stuff like this in your downtown during the winter months, or doing food festivals and places where you can do tailgate parties where you're watching Steelers games, you know, you name it. But the key ingredient for any downtown is programming. This is Main Street Square in Rapid City, South Dakota. So what happens? What comes first? People downtown on a consistent basis, 250 days a year. That's what retailers need to survive in your downtown. And studies show, there it is. They need at least customers in front of their places 250 days a year. So bringing people downtown will put customers in front of their stores. I mean, this is just how it works. And don't compete with your retailers, just put activities there. And so when you do this, you know, 1% properly on any given night, and if you concentrate on Fridays and Saturday nights, and then add Thursday, then add, you know, Sunday afternoon, you know, then add these other days, you'll make it happen. But you need to do this. And so I want to show you what they're doing in some cities. This is up in Windsor, Ontario. They decided to get rid of that parking lot. You know what Shoppers Drug Mart and the bank said, you're going to kill our business. They said, well, let's just try it. Let's just try it for a few weeks. That's what they did in New York City, and they never reopened. So they took that, and this is it today. Their business tripled. Isn't that funny? So you can see here, they've got like a choral group over there now, and they've got some vendors wrapped around there. And it's always changing. Here it is, they have a band over in this corner. They've got like a whole concert there with people hanging out around there. Even at night, it's just a cool, well-lit place. You know, during the summer months, they'll have yoga instructors go out there at 10 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning and give free yoga instruction. And by the way, the people doing the free yoga instruction are selling a ton of yoga mats and yoga pants and everything else that's yoga inspired. You know, but it just creates a cool place. And then in the winter, it turns into an ice rink. I mean, how cool is that? This is happening across America. Main Street Square in Rapid City. Look at the crowd there. You know, just to show you this one, that is a 60 parking space parking lot. You know what I told them? Get rid of that parking lot. See the building in the background? That's an empty Sears building. Raccoons and pigeons lived in it. I said, tear down the Sears building, everything there. And by the way, you know, there's a parking garage there, but even in the parking garage, we put a place to park a Zamboni. You can guess where I'm headed with that. Public restrooms and even retail back there. So this is it before. This is it before. We said get rid of that parking garage. This is that same spot after. They turned it into a 1-acre plaza. And you know what? I went there when it was opening to meet with the city manager, the mayor, the police chief, the tourism director. And I said, they said, we want you to come lunch and see our Main Street Square. I was 15 minutes late because I had to park like 3 blocks away, and there's so many damn pedestrians in the downtown. And they said, we're so glad you're late because that's what you want. And so, I mean, all of a sudden, car clubs started coming there, quilt guilds, pottery shows. Everybody wanted to host events in downtown Rapid City. It changed everything. And they might have this splash pad going 120 days a year. Remember, 250 days worth of activities, not 250 days worth of events. We just need activities so that splash pad, they can shut off. I mean, you know, this is it during the summer months. You can see it right there. Here's the stage right there. By the way, that Sears building, I told them to tear it down. I get a call. Hi, Roger. This is Ray Hillebrand, and I own Prairie Edge, which is this beautiful Native American store downtown. And he goes, I just want to let you know we're not tearing down that Sears building because I just bought it. And I gave the city $2 million to build a plaza next to my new building. He's also getting twice the rent of anybody else in downtown. And there are like 4 restaurants in that building, and they're doing incredible amount of business. But that's it in the summer. This is it in the winter. That's bigger than this ice skating rink at Rockefeller Center. It's about 8,000 square feet. As a matter of fact, you have a splash pad 120 days a year. You have an ice rink 120 days a year. There's 240 of your 250 days worth of activities. They make $130,000 a year just renting ice skates, and they have to dole them out because it gets too busy. And then at 9 o'clock at night, the fountain goes on a little higher pressure with music and lights. You know, this is movie night, Monday night movies on the square. Average attendance is 3,500. Somebody wrote in social media, I grew up in Rapid City. It was never as cool as it is now. The average age of a person buying a home in Rapid City dropped 12 years within 24 months of this opening up. Young people were coming back. I mean, this is happening everywhere. This is Valparaiso, Indiana. This is Indian Creek Plaza in Caldwell, Idaho. This is, Ovation Plaza in Edmonton, Alberta. Renderings of it's not built yet. Evergy Plaza in Topeka, Kansas. This is a rendering. It opened in the middle of COVID, unfortunately. But this is going to be in Michigan City, Indiana. Crate Play Repeat Plaza. And it's going to look like this, when it's built. And so I kept going, man, could we do something in Central Park? I know it's a pretty park, but I kept going, could we take out some of the lawn and put in paver flat areas so we could do food trucks, farmers markets and everything, so it's not just lawn air that can get kind of mushy in the rain. Could we do something there with it? Would we close off a side street? What would we do? But when I went there, I mean, even this is like, keep off. It's not safe. No trespassing, even on the gazebo. Our first impression of downtown Johnstown is it's not safe. So our public parks have to be close to the public. You know, now the whole park isn't, but just that was. I just thought, wow, really? You can't even go in the gazebo. And so I kept going. If this was more about people than a pretty place, it could be really, really cool. I would not go erase all the trees, but I would start to make it. Can you imagine those big chess sets? You ever see them? You can buy them on Amazon for like $700 a piece. They're like this tall. I mean, put out some of those, and every couple of weeks it changes. If I had more time, I would tell you how to do this in detail. But I just kept going. This could be incredible. This is across the street. This is Subway's right there, and what's it, Jeremy's restaurant. I thought even this could be like you have outdoor tables and chairs. You have these pretty little parks with nobody in them. I mean, even Central Plaza, I might see 1 or 2 people ever in that park, and we've been here for a week in nice weather. And so, you know, finally, tourism is downtown's best friend. Think about this. People come, they spend money and head home. We like tourism. But here's the number one activity of visitors in the world. Not the reason they come, but the number one activity once they arrive. Shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly, intimate setting. And that's where 80% of the non-lodging spending takes place. This is why they put downtown Disney outside each of their parks. And you know what? You're not getting that 80%. You might be getting a piece of it because you got Asiagos, you got Balance, you got a few cool places like that. But generally speaking, from a visitor standpoint, I don't know where people hang out. I mean, if you don't hang out in your downtown, neither will visitors. We go where you go. And when we ask locals, they say we go to Richland. That's the last place us as visitors want to go because we have all that stuff back home for the most part. Here's another thing. Downtowns are always about locals first, but there's now women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting. Usually there's a guy in the audience that speaks up right about now and says, that's all. But that's an actually true fact. And by the way, that one is not a shift. What do you see in this picture? That was Wickford, Rhode Island. That was not staged. You know exactly what's going on. I don't even need to explain it to you. But I have 2 words for you. Think benches. There's Jane, being a model. But I didn't see anything. And you may say, yeah, but Roger, if you do that, we're going to have homeless people sitting in benches. You know what? Then you put out more benches. But where people hang out, the undesired people aren't going to go there. They're going to go where there isn't crowds of people. And so this is what you need. And for women, I want to feel safe, well lit, full of life, and I want to see people. I have to tell you that I secret shopped Jane when we were in downtown. When we were in Cambria City, we just parked our vehicle and we just walked around. She didn't make a comment. We pull into downtown Johnstown. We get out and she goes, did you lock the car? Now she has a perception that I'm not too sure. There were some guys hanging out in front of one of these buildings and she's going, maybe we shouldn't go that way. Now we did because I didn't have any problem with it, but as a woman, if you can't provide this, they make 70% of the decision of where we're going to live, where we're going to work, where we're going to open up a business. Here's where I had the guys usually tell me something I didn't already know. But you should have 40 benches in downtown, always against the facade facing out. Instead, what you have are just bare facades with no curb appeal whatsoever. Could go up to Ebensburg and learn from them. This is me pitting one town against another. But look at them. They have benches there. They're flanked with flowers. They're pots. They've got, they just made it look nice. There's nothing you can invest in as a city that will have a greater return investment than your downtown. So it is worth the hassle. And that brings me to this one. This is the rule of critical mass. Here's what you need. If you want downtown Johnstown to be a destination, or even Cambria City, here's what you need to have is the 10-10-10 rule in 3 lineal blocks. And it could be a block this way. It could be just down Main Street. It could be Main Street and then this street and this street. But in 3 lineal blocks, this is the minimum mix you need to make your downtown a destination for both local residents and visitors. You need to have 10 places that sell food. I don't even know that you have 10 places that sell food in all of downtown. Because I know Balance, but then you got like 4 or 5 pizza places and they're all separated all out. You've got, is it Harrigan's or Hannigan's? Harrigan's here, but it's not right next to, it's within range, but you need at least that. Then you need 10 destination retail shops. I would count the little vendor market, or what I call it the public arts market. I think that's one. I don't even know if they had other retailers downtown even for visitors or even locals. I hate to say this, but downtown Johnstown seemed like to be just a massive amount of social service agencies. That was our impression. This is social service downtown. And so out of those 20, at least half of them open after 6. And that's pretty easy for restaurants. But downtown needs to get what I call the mall mentality, consistent hours and days, open into the evening hours, like businesses grouped together. We need anchor tenants. I think Balance is one of those in your downtown. Thank goodness for them. A central gathering place. Think about this. Antique malls do 10 times the business, yet everybody in antique malls is a competitor to the other little vendors. Auto malls do 7 times the business when they're grouped together. Think about the days when we had corner gas stations, lifestyle retail centers, food courts. That's all part of critical mass. So sometimes you have to orchestrate it. I really believe that you need to, once you figure out what your brand is, you need to orchestrate, you need to recruit specific businesses into downtown. And a lot of them, they restrict the use of street level businesses. Even chains and franchises. Out of that 10-10-10, you really have 1, 2, and 0. It's pretty bleak in downtown Johnstown. And so I'm really sorry to say this, but it seemed like most of this downtown is about social service agencies. I saw them everywhere. I walk into historic buildings that I think are going to be open to the public, and it's another social service. And by the way, I think they're necessary. But we've worked in many cities where we will take an office building and we will dedicate it, and we have all the social service agencies in one place. So they can work together, they can be together, and we can start opening up more retail, restaurants, and people-friendly places. And so wherever they're at. The next one. So that's the rule of critical mass, wayfinding. When I was here like 20 years ago, I said, your wayfinding needs to be replaced. Okay, I'm telling you today, it still needs to be replaced. First of all, the lettering on these signs is 1/3 the size they should be. You can't even see these signs until you're practically right up on top of them. And even little things like this, it's telling me that the parking for the Flood Museum is somewhere else. So I'm standing there in front of the Flood Museum, basically. Well, it's right across the street. And it's telling me over here, parking to go this way. So I'm going to turn here and go this way for parking. I'm going, really? I'm going to go across there? And I couldn't figure it out. And even this sign is like, half buried in the flowers. And so they thought, okay, if you want me to park over there and you want me to go to the Flood Museum, we don't even have crosswalks. I mean, so you want me to walk from there? I'm supposed to go over this bridge somewhere. And then, by the way, as soon as I walk on the bridge, there's this whole parking lot. It's totally empty. One car in there. And I kept going, even if it's private, maybe the city or the Flood Museum could go lease it from the property owner for like $1 a month. It would fall under their umbrella insurance. And then if somebody says, okay, we're going to open up a building or we're going to build something there, then great, vacate the lease in 30 days. But so I walk across, I go, wow, why don't I park right there? And there's other parking across the street too. And so then I walk up here, and okay, now it says up there, public parking, right there, public parking, turn left. Where the heck is public parking? I never found it. There's no signs, there's nothing. We kept driving and said, we're so far away, I'm not going to go to the Flood Museum. See what I mean? So your wayfinding is doing you a disservice rather than a service. And there's no crosswalks there either. And by the way, so just does anybody know where the Flood Museum parking is? Where is it? Is it this space?
Yes.
That's it?
Yes.
How would you know? See what I mean? We never finished the job. And that was a problem with your wayfinding. And by the way, can you read that wayfinding? It's right across the street. You can't read it. When you first came into town, we saw Welcome Center. If you follow those signs of the Welcome Center, you will end up going out of town where it says aggressive drivers and it's crash. Yeah, that's where you end up going. Because there is no visitor center Welcome Center down that way. And so after a while, we gave up using the wayfinding at all. And once again, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. This is just, what do we do to make it better? And I would say the wayfinding is better than nothing, but it's just, you have all of these, it goes to different parking garages, but then we've added on bus routes, then we added on visitor information here. We just start tacking things onto it. But overall, look, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4 cars away from the sign and I can't read it. And so that's a major challenge. And with your city, I mean, thank goodness we found this map. And look at this map. Can you imagine being in the passenger seat of a car with this map? It's like, Jane, that's in my face. And it's like, okay, now let's see, we're over here in this one. And by the way, is there any street in this area where you can drive half a mile or more and it's straight and flat? No! And so wayfinding is really critical, and for you, it's pretty much a start over. I would just start over and just redevelop it. Here's why you should do it. It educates us what you have, and it delivers a pleasant visitor experience. It helps mitigate the traffic flow. It introduces your brand because it'll look like whatever it is you're about, like I showed you in York. It creates a sense of place and a sense of arrival, eliminates sign clutter and broken systems like you have right now. And every single city that does wayfinding has seen sales and services increase by an average of 18%. But your system is kind of broken. And I think it's because things have changed over the years since you've had it. There you go. This is Appleton, Wisconsin. That sign right there, that was $750. It's on an existing power pole. But notice the writing is like 3 times bigger than the writing on your signs. And you never ever put more than 4 or 5 items on any one sign. But these letters are like 6 inches tall, not 2 inches. And so all of these are just examples of effective wayfinding that you need to do. I mean, here's Greenville, South Carolina. I could just keep going down the list. But another thing, but look at the scale. There's a person my height standing there. This is the type of signs you need. So your scale is just way off. Particularly in a town like this, it took me 3 days to figure out how to get from downtown Johnstown to Cambria City. Because I kept trying to get on that overpass. You know what I mean? The elevator. I kept figuring out, how do I get up there? I didn't realize I could go down along the factories and then cross over. Had no clue. And so this is why you need, we also need viewing distance. It's like 1-inch tall letters for every 40 feet of viewing distance. And so it's just something you need to do. And while you're at it, you should do pedestrian wayfinding. Once we're on foot in your downtowns, tell us where things are. This is in French Lick, Indiana. You know, but it could be like this in Asheville, North Carolina. So once we get out of our cars, we're in one of those parking garages. When we walk down to the base of the parking garage, how do we get anywhere? And we were very confused by that. I love this in Greenville, South Carolina. They have these maps in various places downtown that show you where all the parking garages are. You have several parking garages. I can't remember the name of them for the life of me. You know, which one did I park in again? You know, where is that one? Is it over here, over there? You know, so this is nice. You can see the blue where their parking garages are. And another cool thing they did in Greenville is these are more to explore signs. There it is, up close. And what it is, this is to send people down little side streets. And these little things like right here, you can actually take that out. The side comes off and then you can put a new one in if a business changed. And the business pay like $10 a month to be in these. So it helps fund itself. Kind of a cool thing to do. One thing that's really important is that navigation systems are not a substitute for wayfinding. We use navigation systems to find things we already know exist. So if I know that Asiagos exists, but I don't know where it is, I can go Siri, take me to, or Google Maps, take me to Asiagos, and it'll find it. But there are so many things you have that I would never know you had if I had not seen them on your signs. You know, and I got to tell you that it's not just in downtown Johnstown. If you go out to St. Michael's and you want to go to the clubhouse, there's signs that say go up that road. You go up this road, there's no more signs. Do I turn left? Do I turn right? We turned left because it was uphill. That must be uphill because this was all a lake. And so we turned left, and then we're parking our vehicle, getting ready to get out and go in the clubhouse, and then we realized it's a residence. We had no clue where the clubhouse was. There was no wayfinding. And then we did finally, you know, and then even down, this is Johnstown Flood. This is the national, if you go into St. Michael's, this sign right here is after the turn. It should be on the right side of the street before the turn. So if you're lucky enough to go buy ice cream at the Ranger and then you're coming back, the other side of the sign is fine. And so anyway, we almost went in there, and there's that one. And by the way, even downtown, I think I would take this down because it says it's a shopping district, all that orange. We couldn't find any shops in it. So, you know, some things have changed over the years. When you do wayfinding, do not hire architectural firms, graphic design firms. You hire experts, that's all they do. We work with this guy up at top. That's Todd Mayfield. I've actually done them with him. There's also Corbin Design. But you know what? There's also Cloud Gestion. They're based out of Philadelphia. They do an excellent job because it is as much a science as it is an art. And so, you know, so that's the part about wayfinding. Now, my next one is, let's talk about first impressions. I think what you've done on top of all the meters is beautiful, but look below. They cancel each other out. So for all the effort to make your meters look nice, what we see in downtown Johnstown is just weed haven. It's just weeds everywhere. And it creates a situation where people feel that downtown isn't safe. It's a myth more than a reality, but they're coming to that conclusion because it looks like nobody cares. I know that's not the case, but that's what it looks like. It looks like either they have no money to take care of their infrastructure or nobody cares. As locals, you just look past all this stuff. So you're seeing it through what we see, and we see all the details that you don't even notice. I mean, this was in the middle of the park. I'm going, man, I hope somebody doesn't trip over that. You know, I was going to put it back, and I thought, well, maybe that's off for a reason. I'm not sure. But even, even I see Bulldog Arena and Event Center, and I see it's for rent and it's for lease. And so I thought, it's too bad even that went out of business. And I don't know if that's the case, but that's what it looks like. Everywhere we went in downtown, there was trash on the streets, on the sidewalks, everywhere. And so, what would be your first impression? And we're judging your city based on this. When we started walking around, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to tell them? And I didn't see this in Cambria City, and I don't know if it's because the locals go out and pick up stuff or whether the locals in downtown don't care. I don't know, and I'm not sitting here, this is not and by the way, before somebody says, city, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, the city owns all that. In most countries, the merchants take care of the space in front of their retail shops. You go to Paris, anytime in the morning, you see merchants out there hosing their sidewalks, sweeping their sidewalks, cleaning the gutters. This has to be a public-private partnership. But when I see apparently we don't have ashtrays downtown, and I don't know whether those 300 cigarette butts are from one person or whether this is just where everybody smokes and throws them. But even, just walking down here, we can't even walk on the sidewalks because they're so overgrown. And I don't know if it's the responsibility of this, looks like an empty building. I think it's like right next door. I'm not too sure, but when I see this, I think these have probably been there since last fall. All the leaves are dried up and everything. So these are the kinds of things we're seeing that I don't see your citizens picking up. We've actually worked in downtowns where we will take disadvantaged people or homeless people, and the city will pay them, and they get to adopt like 2 or 3 blocks. And their job is to keep it spotless clean, and they make $200 or $300 a month, and they have a place where they can take the trash. And we've actually seen that work, where they're actually become ambassadors rather than a challenge for downtown. But there was just so much of this everywhere we walked. You even have like old signs like that. There says no parking between 9 to 5 p.m. Really? Was there parking there? That's a lane of traffic. Really? But the sign's so faded, just take it down. It just makes it look like you don't care. And I know it's not the case, but for so many people with first impressions, and it's not just the public sector, it's private sector, parking lots and everything. Even over here at the parking, there's a sign there, and I think it says event parking, but the sign is so faded you can't even read it anymore. This does not have to be expensive, to fix. It's just massive amounts of little things. It was really kind of tragic. And we didn't see this in Cambria City. We saw it we didn't see it anywhere except in downtown Johnstown. This is your namesake city, and so, I do see things like this. And it talks about, Claire Barton, and we, by the way, we worked in Danville, New York, just up the road where Claire Barton's from. But it says they're trying to raise money to restore these. The challenge is the banners look like they've been there forever, and that's just not happening. And so you might do some updates, and this brings me right into the power of curb appeal, which is so critical. I think in front of this building, we've got hanging baskets, we got the flower pots there. I'd love to see benches on both sides flanked with pots, because your curb appeal is really, there's one pot there, and we do have, it looks, what I always say is the city is in charge of curbside beautification, but merchants and downtown associations should be in charge of facade side beautification. And what was really lacking in downtown was facade side beautification. Between the transition of buildings to sidewalk, there's little to nothing that softens that look and makes it look attractive. And it's go right back to Coney Island. It looks like the signs have not changed since the 1960s. And there's no benches, there's no flowers, there's no pots. And of course, they're working on the inside. So you see black plastic hanging there. And it's, from what I've heard, it's fantastic. But all the way up and down, the retail merchants don't do anything to pull people in their doors. Nothing. I thought balance was the only thing that actually looked nice from the outside. And I'm so sorry I'm being hard and critical, but if I'm thinking it, maybe other people are thinking it when they come downtown. I mean, if this was in Pittsburgh, would you say, oh, I want to go eat there? This might be a great restaurant, but what happens is it just doesn't have much appeal. And by the way, I don't think plastic banners should be up for more than like 2 weeks in a historic downtown. And so, even in this case, Capri Pizza there, it might be pretty nice. The window displays look good, but I can't tell whether it's even in business. Is it? Wouldn't know it, because there's nothing to pull me in. And part of it is this. How long has that been there? If you're not going to use the sign, take it away, because weeds are growing up around the sandbags. See what I mean? So it's a combination of these little things, that you see. And then you see the posts are all rusty and everything, and there's weeds everywhere. And what's really sad is it totally overshadows the beautification you're trying to do. Just totally overshadows it. And that is a real problem. I also think you need to have awnings over little places. I took this up in Livingston County, New York, Geneseo up there. And I mean, look at just these. Some of your retail merchants should do these just to help soften the facades. You could do an awning grant program or an awning, zero interest loan to help some of the retailers, once you get them, do this. It tells us you're in business. It makes it look intimate and it feels better. I mean, in this case, this one pulls out and it could retract it. And that's an Italian restaurant. But all of these, even like Galina's, if it had a little bit of curb appeal, I might have gone in there without having your general manager here at Holiday Inn tell me it's a good place to eat. And so here's that one where it's all rolled up right there. So these are the kinds of things that you need to do in your downtown to really help bring it to life, especially once you start recruiting your retail merchants. And that brings me to the next one, which is blade signs. These are signs that are perpendicular to us. Can you tell me what's in any of those businesses down that street? See, there's no incentive for me to walk down the street. Blade signs, when we're driving in a car, walking down a sidewalk, we see signs that are perpendicular to us. I'm not going to walk out into the street where the traffic is and then look up and see what it says up there on your facades. And so that's the blade sign. Tell me what's down there. I have no clue. There's no incentive for me to keep walking down any of these streets. And by the way, if you do blade signs, you wouldn't have near the need to do sandwich boards. And so, we drove by the Flood Museum 4 times before we found it. We had to ask somebody where it was at. Because can you tell me where the Flood Museum is from here? I mean, we're right there. But the sign that says Flood Museum, you only see if you're coming the other way. And so this isn't just wayfinding, it's just having a little perpendicular sign up over the window that just says, the Johnstown Flood Museum. We would have seen it right off. So when you see these, those are blade signs. And you want to know something about these signs? Chocolate, collectibles, train, restaurant. You know instantly what they are and what they sell. And so this is something that you should do in downtown Johnstown and in Cambria City, in all of your districts where you have some retail. And this is Nantucket. And you notice they're all similar in height, so they're not jumbled up everywhere. This is Carmel, California. I could keep going through this. This is Canmore, Alberta, a town of 10,000. These are great signs. Notice right there, Mountain Realty, Caribou, which is a restaurant, the Kitchen Boutique, great sign. And if you do little rules like this, no lower than 7 feet, no higher than 9 feet, which means the sign can be 2 feet tall, no wider than 42 inches, then you won't have sign clutter. And that would really help your merchants as you start to attract them. And always promote what is your selling. What do you think this is? Somebody, what do you think it is? Crab Shack? Comedy Club? They went out of business because they sold kites and windsocks. I have no idea what lamb cakes is. It looks like a great business. I don't know if they only sell cakes for weddings and events or whether it's a cupcake shop. I don't know whether it's open to the public, but if it just had lamb cakes and just says cupcakes, pastries, or if it's just wedding cakes, tell me more. And a lot of your merchants need to do that. This one here, Gallery on Gazebo. I'm not sure whether it's a bike shop or whether it's an art gallery. I have no idea. There's a bike in the window there and a heart over there, but I have no idea what this shop is. I just don't know. Scott's by Dam, have no clue what it is. My guess is it's a little brew house or a tap. What is it? Does anybody know? It's a what? It's a bar and restaurant. And if it just said bar and restaurant underneath it, we would know. But had no clue. So another idea for you. Number 10. You have got to get out of the 1950s with your parking. You now can convert these to a modern app and kiosk system without costing the city a dime. And yeah. By the way, I speak at municipal leagues all the time. All money generated from parking should not be in general fund revenues. It should always be reinvested into the district where it's generated. Parking is an economic development tool. So parking, that money should be reinvested. This is, you know what? If you reinvested the parking money, you could have these downtown streets spotless. You could be replacing sidewalks. You could be doing wayfinding. It's just reinvesting that money. And so what you can do now, and I'm going to give you a good example. A lot of these are so rusted and worn out, I'm shocked they even work, especially over there. They still work. I was shocked. But once again, this is selling this. This is this whole first impressions thing, that you're dealing with. And even if I go back to that, once again, just look at the weeds and everything, the rusted parking meters. So there's different choices. I'm going to show you Passport, but there's also Pango, there's also Pay by Phone, there's also Park Mobile. These are companies that do this. And the benefit to the city is at no cost to the city to do this. Parking enforcement, you need to have web-capable devices because now we're paying online. And customer pays a convenience. We pay more money. I'll show you that in a minute. And then they provide the stickers and they apply them. They set everything up. Cities see a 20% increase in revenues as an average just by switching from this quarter system. I mean, we pull into Johnstown, it's like, oh my gosh, do you have any quarters? I mean, we got to go dig for quarters. You walk into a shop and say, can you make change? They go, nope. It just doesn't work. And so it benefits the end consumer. No more feeding the meter, 15-minute text reminder. So if I say I want to buy an hour and I'm eating at Balance, let's say. And then at 45 minutes later, I'm getting a text that says, your parking meter is going to expire in 15 minutes. Would you like to renew it? And I can renew it right there at the meter, right there at the restaurant, And then if you had like 4-hour parking limits, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. If you had 4-hour parking limits and you're at 3 hours, 45 minutes, it says your parking meter is going to expire in 15 minutes, you better move your car. See, so it's actually helpful for us as a consumer. The app is always free. You can opt in. You can even add local information like where did I park my car, and it'll take you right back to your meter. So because it's easy to get turned around in a town like yours. Consumers can find businesses in proximity to their parking space, real-time payment. You'll only pay for the time you actually set up for. This, you have three choices in this case. You could continue to use the meters if you want, or you can pay by smartphone, or you can use a kiosk. So you don't have to, everybody does not have to be smartphone enabled to do this. And so in this case, this is Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. In this case, they just added these stickers. And in this case, they used passport parking. And that's what they did. And I'll show you how this works. Here's my first time experience. So I was in Wisconsin Dells, water park capital of the world. I walked up, I scanned the QR code, which now you just do with your camera on your phone. It pulls up a website. Within 20 seconds, I had the app. And then it used location search. Says, oh, you're in downtown Wisconsin Dells. And so it says, give myself a username and password, because I'm setting up for the very first time. And then you put in the zone and space. And so once I did that, and then I put in a credit card, and it does save your credit card information so that if I use passport parking anywhere in the United States, I don't have to go through this. I would just go up to it and then type in zone 110, space 646, and say, how long do you want to spend for parking? And so I told it how long I wanted to park, and it included the prices. And so in your case, it told me the following. Not to worry, the meter won't show any time on it because it's, because we're now using electronic. And it's text me 15 minutes before, and it allows for more time. I can recharge it. I can pay for more time. And so total time, it took me 3 minutes. So if you do this, you can even send a notice out to your residents, tell them that we're moving to a digital system. And while you're at home, go ahead and download the app. And then when you come downtown, you can send everybody so it's easy for them to figure out. So in this case, they also have the kiosk right there. So that if you don't have a smartphone, you can just walk over to a kiosk and print out a little parking ticket and put it on your dash of your car. In this case, this one even has solar, so it's not like you have to run power to it. So it actually has solar and battery running to the kiosk there. And for new lots like they're putting up, you could even get rid of your meters and just do this. And you can just walk right up to it and just put in, okay, I'm in zone whatever and space whatever. And so this is really, really cool. What's really nice, there you go, you can even call if you don't have a smartphone app. But this is what they did in Wisconsin Dells. And I think this would be a really great thing for downtown Johnstown or anywhere where you have paid parking. Next time you use it, 15 seconds. I just opened up the app, plugged in zone 110 and the space number 184. That easy. What's nice? So here you go. Open the app. There you go. It's zone 110. There it is, space 184. 4 hours, $2.35. Now, the city's fees were $2. I paid the extra 35 cents because I was so happy to not have to be carrying around quarters. It's going to warn me when my parking meter is going to expire. I'm willing to pay it. So it doesn't cost the city a dime. It's added on to us as a consumer. Right now, I think you're 25 cents for half an hour, which I think is fine. As downtown develops, I think it'll be worth paying more for it. But right now, I think that's totally fine. And so it's a convenience for me. So it doesn't cost the city a dime. And they come in and they do all of this. They do it all. I would do it immediately. I want you to see yourself as a city for the future, not stuck in the past. And I think this would be a good thing for you to do. Okay? I also want you to rethink your parking limits. 2-hour parking away is a good way to kill a downtown. Now, if I decide to have lunch here at the Holiday Inn, so I go pay for parking. I know they have free parking here, but I don't know about the parking garage. I'll get to that in a minute. And if I pay for parking, I want to come here and eat lunch or at Balance or a pizza place, any place. and then I want to go in the record store. I want to go over and get some chocolates. Or I want to go over in Central Park because you have a farmer's market going on. The average time a person will spend in downtown is 4 hours. So why are you chasing them away at 2 hours? Here's the rationale. We cannot get our employees to park somewhere else, so we're going to punish our customers instead. How's that working for you? You should extend it to 4 hours. Don't send people away. And by the way, you can do 4-hour parking, but on your parking garages, can you park all day in a parking garage? Then what you do, put all day, on your parking garage, you put all day, $5 or whatever. So if downtown it's 4 hours, except for the visitor information, it's 20 minutes and it's free. But the rest of it would be 4-hour parking or even 3-hour parking. Then you put all day parking, $5. And you should put that on your parking garage to incentivize people to park in the parking garages versus street parking. Okay? And then right outside the Holiday Inn, right here in this row, it says tow-away zone. So there's my question. Is this really a tow-away zone right outside this building? There's been vehicles parked there all day long. And I don't understand that. Why is it a tow-away zone? So I was like, can we park here or not park here? They don't seem to be towing away all the cars parked here. And I thought, well, maybe they're talking about if you park on the grass, it's a tow-away. I don't know. But those are confusion. This is the parking garage right next to the Holiday Inn. Is this a public parking garage or does it belong to the Holiday Inn? Does anybody know? I have no clue. I didn't know whether I could park in there. I didn't know whether I couldn't park in there. No information. And so I don't know. This one, it's easy, Renaissance Center, public parking. But it would be great if it said right there, all day parking, $5 or whatever it is. Incentivize me to park in a parking garage. Okay? And then finally, there it goes. There's the 3 spaces we want there. Now, number 12. I'm wrapping it up. Invite us back. This is one thing that's so important and I think is missing. When in downtown Johnstown, Sunday on the square, street party on Gazebo Place, August 1st, 2 to 6 p.m. Fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me back downtown. That was a really great example. But I would also create a reader board like somewhere near the gazebo that says, here's all of our events coming up this summer. I think that'd be really great. So if we're not here August 1st, maybe we catch one of the other events. There should always be a reader board there. You have signs for a farmer's market. When is it? When is it? When is your farmer's market downtown? Friday from when? 10 to 2 or something? But it's not on the signs. It should say Johnson's Farmer's Market every Friday 10 to 2 or whatever the hours are, from May through whenever. But once again, no clue. This is great. I love the Roxbury band shell. It's really cool. Great invitation to come back. Love it. And that's, by the way, it's the 25th. It looks like we're going to have a couple of bands there. I don't know if Tree is a band or a musician or what it is, but at least there's an invitation to come back. I hope they will do the other side of the sign. So when you're coming down the hill by the sports facilities there, you could do that side. But once again, at least they invite us back. And I think this is a terrific stage. My one challenge is right next to it where people would be sitting is this. And it says rink closed, under construction, do not enter, skating rink closed. It looks like those signs have been there for 30 years. Is it really under construction or is it just, it is? The signs don't look like, how long has it been under construction? Years? Recently. Just recently. But if you look at the signs, it looks like it's been abandoned. See, these are the little things that really send a wrong message to people. I think it's actually awesome. I just thought, man, where do people sit? There's this one little bench or the benches right here. And I thought, wow, I guess they just sit in between the rink and that. But it's a great asset. I'm really glad that's there. I think it's really cool. So Even over at the incline, when you're in the downtown portion at the bottom of the hill, this is what you see. And hopefully they're going to fix this. And it talks about major new attractions at the top. The first one's already been blacked out. And that sign looks like it's 50 years old. See what I mean? You have to understand that the way we're seeing these things. As a matter of fact, I walked across the bridge over there, and the panel for bringing the tram up and down was open. I wanted so bad to hit that green button and bring it down, or the red button to take it back up. It was just wide open. Nothing that says why it's closed. Nothing. Couldn't find any information anywhere. All I knew is it's closed. I don't know what happened. Did they give up? Is it, I mean, what happened here? Did they go broke? Well, I found that out because I went up to the top and I finally saw this. It was just one little 8.5 by 11 piece of paper in a display. It's now closed for the season. Here's what I'd like to know. When will you reopen? Invite me back. Are you going to open October 1st? Are you really open year round? Are you going to open, is it closed all year? Is it a 2-year project? I heard 1-year project, 2-year project. Don't know when. It just says closed for the season. No invitation to ever come back. And that's if I'm up at the top. There's nothing at the bottom that said anything. And so those are just little things about inviting people back. This is a brewery downtown. Beautiful beautification. Nice job with the building. Here's my question. Does this place serve food? Would have no clue. And it was closed up when we were there at lunchtime. So I'm not sure if it's just certain days of the week. But once again, invite us back. Invite us back because it looks awesome. Even here, any upcoming events? Does anything take place in here? Are things happening during the summer? Nothing. No information. No reader boards. So even over here, I mean, are you getting the idea? I have a reader board like, okay, People's Natural Gas Park, which by the way, I think is awesome. It looks really great there. Is anything happening there this summer? When? Tomorrow. And what's happening there tomorrow? Free concert. And does it happen like every Friday or every Saturday? No. But once again, nothing. So these are just little things you can do with a simple reader board. It doesn't have to be electronic. You don't have to go out and spend $100,000 on it. But just a little thing with slots in it or anything. Even just a sandwich board that just says coming this weekend. It'd be reasons for us to come back. I even thought I would love to see in big writing on there, welcome to Johnstown, the Renaissance City. And it's obviously this bridge, I think it's a bridge, is being painted or whatever. It's undercover. I thought this would even be a great, just say, things are happening here. You know, so just even printing something on there I thought would be a great invitation to come back. Over in Cambria City, Avoma, venue of emerging arts. Is this ever open? Yes. When? But see, you don't even have to answer the question. There's nothing that says to invite me back. And the sign looks like it's starting to get pretty faded. And it's like, maybe this was just wishful thinking. Don't know. The ball field. Last night, I must admit, the lights were on. So there was a game. Was there a game last night? But once again, even here, there's nothing that says, come and watch. Here's the games, the home games. But it's a fantastic amenity or attraction even. And I just thought, wow, why isn't there... There's nothing. So that is one of the major problems that can be fixed is all these venues you have that are outstanding, I have no clue when and if anything's ever going on in any of them. You know? So finally, to start to wrap things up, other notes and first impressions, we saw these heritage route signs everywhere. I can't find any information anywhere about any heritage route. Does it still exist? Then we should take down the signs. Because they're all over the place, we should just take them down. At the conference center, you can't even read that. That's with a telephoto lens. But if you would just take those lettering and just paint them that green, it would stand out. We'd see it because I only saw the word conference center when I was right up at it. And that's right here. I even thought this, I saw this, I went, ooh, cool. We could do a cool art alley there. I want to show you. If you want to be a cool emerging town, we were working in Rapid City, South Dakota, and they had this alley. And they let graffiti artists just take it over. Now, it's way more grittier than your alley. But what they had were rules, 4 rules. No swastikas, no profanities, clean up after yourselves, and protect other people's art. That was it. And they said, go for it. And so these graffiti artists started, they painted everything. They couldn't paint the meters, but they painted the garbage cans, they painted everything. They even painted the alleyway itself. And before this, it was full of drug deals. You did not want to go there. And all of a sudden, they started doing all this art. Some of it's kind of really graffiti oriented, along this line. But some of it is just stunning. And you know what? It's now a major tourist attraction. They even have concierges walk you up and down the alley telling you about the art. Look at people. It's just packed. So I just thought, wow, you could do something cool like that. And the building owners say, fine, paint it as much as you want. You're protecting our old brick. That was there. We did find the airport. Just want to let you know, we did find it. Looks great. Do you have commercial flights that fly in here? It'd be great if that was on the sign. I don't know who does or whatever, but just say, by the way, commercial flights into Jamestown. And I got to tell you that as a visitor, I would never, ever remember that this is the Johnstown, Cambria County Airport. So sometime you might think you might just shorten it to Cambria County Airport or Johnstown Airport. Just shorten it. I mean, I'm not saying change the official name, but for me, it's like I would never remember all of that. And then, this is a National Historic Landmark. So I thought, wow, I could go in and check it out. Open the door. It's like, ooh, yikes. Close the door. I think, is this social services in there? It's like, no. Oh, it's a halfway house. I'm going, no. This is, I'm just going, really? We have this beautiful historic building. I just think, wait a second, this is not right. There's some things that I just think that there's got to be a better location than right across the street from the Flood Museum. Now, we didn't have any issues when we were there, but I thought this is on the National Historic Register. I mean, I've seen photographs of all the people dressed up in suits to get paid there. Isn't that where they went? And all of a sudden now it's a halfway house? I'm just going, okay, this is sending a wrong message about Johnstown. And so, this is an amazing viewpoint. Just interpretive panels, inside are excellent. It's just phenomenal to see that. I just thought that was awesome up there. And so really, really great. We also checked out the country club. Yep, we went up there. And it looks very nice. We're ready to grab towels and hit the pool. I'm not sure how long it would take for us to get kicked out. I imagine this is private, right? Very nice, great golf course there. And right there, we're like, we want to buy this house. It's for sale, by the way. When we saw the price of this house, we were shocked. Because in other places, that'd be 3 or 4 times what they're asking for it. We actually went on like Realtor.com and we're sitting there looking at all the photos and going, oh my gosh. I mean, just phenomenal. But we loved all of Westmont up there. It was just really, really beautiful. Of course, can't wait to use the incline sometime, I should say. And we love the fact that there's a pedestrian bridge from downtown over to it, which is great. And I think every time we walked over here by the river, it's like, wow, I wish I had an inner tube. I'd like to go somewhere and tube down this. And so I think I read somewhere that that's actually going to happen, which is awesome. So my last one, here's what you do with all this. I tell cities everywhere they should create Destination Johnstown or the destination whatever their city is. Because now we are in a global economy. You are competing with 1,000 other towns. I call these the economic development dudes, battling out. You're in competition with 1,000 other towns in Pennsylvania, let alone all the states surrounding you. And yet we tend to work in silos. This is not just you, it's everywhere. We have education doing the thing, chamber, tourism, downtown auxiliary organizations like Kiwanis Rotary, economic development, community development, the municipality, arts councils, historical societies, local foundations. And this is what you end up, I call this the economic development express, really clipping along, isn't it? And this is a big challenge. And I always believe that tourism, downtowns, chambers, economic development should be working together. And I think even tourism being in the building now, you're starting to create that energy, which I think is really great. But you as local organizations are far more powerful. One loud voice is a bunch of separate voices. This is why branding is important, so that you're all singing out of the same hymnal. And I would love to see you create that Destination Johnstown's team. And on this team, get your millennials involved. I don't know if you have a young professionals group. If you don't, you need to create one. And I mean, they need to have a primary, this is your future, is this group. And you know what? These are basically between 81 and 96. Do we have anybody born in that period here today? Okay, how many of you are lying and you're actually born way before that? No, I'm just kidding. But good, see, you're here. And you're so critical. This is the largest generation in American history. They're bigger than the boomers. And the oldest are now like, you know, in their 40s. The youngest ones are in their upper 20s. But one thing about this group, they're the best educated group of people in American history. They are the most diverse, and they embrace it. And they're the most civically minded generation in U.S. history. I am a boomer. We grew up down with the establishment. Then somehow we became the establishment and screwed it up. I mean, but this group, there are more mayors under the age of 35 today in the United States than any time in U.S. history. They need to have a seat at the table. Engage them. You know, and by the way, if you cater to millennials, you're going to get us Gen Xers and boomers. And I talk to college students all the time, and I tell them, I said, look, we like hanging out with you whether you like it or not. You know, and really, if you cater it young, you're still going to get every other generation. You know, I read that there's an Iron to Arts corridor coming through. I thought, yes, great opportunity. Riverside Park, I heard that's going to be like right next to the incline or somewhere right there. Fantastic, connecting that recreation with downtown. I think the National 9/11 Memorial Trail, these are all things I've read or heard about. I think there's a lot of new investment downtown. And by the way, with new investment, I want you to be careful of something. In many, many cities, there are people investing in properties that are distressed with the hope that the public sector will buy them out later and they can make a profit. And so you have to beware of people, what their motive are when they buy properties in downtown. We've even worked with cities where when they buy property, they have 180 days to actually do something, or else it gets eminent domain. Yeah. You have to control your future. And so that's just a word of caution, because I know a lot of people are doing it right now. It's a tax write-off until they sell it down the road, and they have no intention of actually doing something. But once you start with your brand and you're known for something, then you're going to have those types of business say, I want to be in Johnstown over anywhere else. But on that group would be, like, of course, tourism, economic development, arts council, community foundation for the Alleghenies. Thank you very much. They funded this. All of these kinds of groups would be on this group. And I'm hoping your young professionals here, private employer, I usually try to keep these groups to like 13 or so. You might have 15. But you need to do this. It's not another 501c3 or nonprofit. It's just a group from all these organizations working together once a month, so we're all singing out of the same hymnal and going in the same direction. This is the one they created in Rapid City. Destination Rapid City. The mission is to create, sustain, and maintain a vibrant city center, which provides a cultural and recreational space for the enjoyment and use of our community and its visitors. This is Destination Caldwell. Same type, their brand mission is right there. And when you do this, you will go from that to that. And this assessment is just the first step in that. You know, I always say, this is where you are today from the eyes of somebody you might be wanting to attract. That's all this is. So now you say, now that we know that, how do we take these? And by the way, we have a great video and how to attract the people there. By the way, these are doers, not directors. That's really important. These are people that are going to go speak to Kiwanis and Rotary and to city councils and boroughs and I mean all of your elected officials. And so I think that's really important. And this group would go through the suggestion. This is just tourism. This is everybody plays a role. The city, Department of Transportation, you name it. But I got to tell you that in closing, some of the things we found amazing about Johnstown, and I'm going to get some of these dates wrong, but if you look at this in the canal system, and then you had to switch from canals over to trains, then you had the flood, and then you were, within a year, you were back rebuilding and back on track, and then your population nearly doubled. I'm not sure on all the years. I do know that 47 years later, you had the next great flood. Then you became the flood-proof city. You know, and then, you know, we had started the decline of the steel industry. You know, then you had your next flood, which I think killed 85 people, if I have that right. Then I think in 1992, I read somewhere that you lost another major employer. And so what I saw from this is this right here. Has there ever been a more resolute, resilient city in the history of this country than Johnstown, Pennsylvania? Hats off to you. I mean, you know, way back in 1889, they could have just rolled up the carpet and said, that's it, we're done. You know, but the steel mills, I mean, they went right back to work, you know, and people went right back to work. They were within days, they were cleaning up everything. I mean, you know, so hats off to Johnstown for determination, fortitude, resilience to become an amazing, successful city again. I really believe you're America's Renaissance city. If there was ever anything you stand for, this is about you. Now, I'm not saying that's your brand. It could certainly play into it. But I really believe what you've done and the hardships this community has taken, and you keep getting hit. I mean, I didn't even talk about SARS and COVID and everything else we've had to deal with. And I just think that, you know, here's to making Johnstown an even better, thriving place to live, work, invest in, and visit. And that is all I have for you this morning. Whew.